you feel like you're giving most of your money to URSSAF, then this video can definitely help you. It is a subject that we've touched on before, but I do think it deserves more time spending on it because I know that so many of you find yourselves in this position. I feel like the last couple of videos have had some pretty intense figures in there. The next video is going to be less intense on the figures, but this is just too important not to talk about. We're going to be comparing these two regimes with these two regimes. Now, I know a lot of you are probably in the entreprise individuelle that declares income tax, IR, impôt sur les revenus, and financially that is identical, although legally is different, to the EURL that pays income tax. And both of these structures do pay income tax by default. But it is perfectly possible as well to pay company tax. And if you want to do that, then you just need to write a letter to your tax office in the first quarter of a new financial year, explain that you are opting to pay company tax. And after you've seen this video, you may decide to do that. The temptation is always to kind of put them up against each other and do a kind of fight situation. I don't think that's very helpful because everybody's situation is different, and what you need to do is to determine which one of these is going to suit you better in your personal situation. But to be able to determine that, you need to be really clear about how both of them work. And I'm going to start off with the income tax, entreprise individuelle and EURL that declare income tax. And I'm going to say that we have a profit of 80,000 euros to distribute. If that seems like an absurdly high amount of money to you, then you can substitute your own figures into there. It's absolutely fine. But I just had to explain it somehow, so I had to pick a figure, and this is the one I picked. So we're starting off with a profit of 80,000 euros. Now, in your situation, in your regime, all of this profit is going to be considered as your personal revenue. Even if you don't need all of that as your own personal revenue, even if you don't draw all of that out of your professional account and put it into your personal account, it's still considered as your personal revenue. And so what happens is, on that 80,000 euros, you will pay 25,000 euros to URSSAF. Obviously, these figures are rounded up or down. It's not exactly 25,000 euros. And if you are a single person, then your income tax on what's left, on the 55,000 that's left, is going to be 8,500 euros, leaving you with a net salary of 46,500 or 3,900 approximately a month. Now, if you are married but you have no children, then that means that your income tax is going to be calculated on two parts, so that will go down 3,100 euros, which obviously increases your net salary and leaves you with 4,300 euros per month. But the social charges do not go down, they stay at 25,000 euros. And that is the case as well, even if you have two children at home, each child is a half part, so that would be 3 parts. The income tax will go right down to 1,400, leaving you with a higher net salary again and 4,500 euros per month. But the social charges will not change. Now, in my personal opinion, if we're living in rural France, as I think most of us are, and we're working hard and we're not going on foreign holidays every couple of months, and we're not going out to like Michelin-starred restaurants every weekend, then this is quite a lot of money. And my question to you is, do you need all of this money? Or could you manage with less money per month and do something else with the rest of the money? It's a little bit like ordering this massive pizza. It really doesn't matter if you cut it up into big pieces or small pieces, if you eat it all now or if you save some for later, if you eat it all yourself or you share some with your friends. It's still only going to be the same big, massive pizza. It can never be anything different. And big pizzas are great, but you can also have a bit too much of a good thing. When you declare company tax, it's a little bit more like ordering tapas. You can afford to say, I'll have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and that might suit you better. So here I'm going to start looking at the regimes that pay company tax, which is IS, Impôt sur les Sociétés. And I've had to divide this into 3 columns here because my company is like a whole separate person. So I've had to make one column for you, for what's coming into your household, and another column for the business, for what's going out of the business. And I've started off with the same gross profit, 80,000 euros, but with the difference being that this time you have decided to only withdraw 40,000 euros. And so here are the 40,000 euros coming out of the business, and here they are coming into your personal pocket. On 40,000 euros, there will be social charges of 12,500 euros, which means that the business has made a net profit of 27,500 euros. Now, if you're a single person, on 40,000 euros, you will pay 4,400 in income tax, which leaves you with 35,600 as a net salary, or 3,000 euros a month. But that's not all. The company has made this net profit of 27,500 euros. It has to pay company tax. With this amount of profit, it's going to pay company tax at 15%, which works out at 4,100 euros. So you still have left in the company 23,400 euros, even after you've paid yourself and you have 3,000 euros per month as a single person. Personally, I think that's okay. You will make your own mind up. I have not done anything fancy here. All I've done is paid a salary. There are so many different ways that I could distribute this money if I wanted to, and that's another video. You can watch it afterwards. I'll link it at the end. But now let's imagine that you are married. So we have 2 parts. The income tax on 40,000 is only going to be 900, which leaves you with 39,100 or 3,250 per month, and still there's 23,400 left in the company. And again, if you then imagine that you have 2 children at home, then with a salary of 40,000 euros, there is 0 income tax to pay. And you're left with 40,000 euros as a net salary, 3,300 per month. And that might be getting a little bit tight if you've got 2 children at home, maybe. But that's okay, because you still do have this 23,400 that you can distribute in so many different ways. It was a bit hard to get all of these on one page for you, just about squish them in. When you pay income tax, you're very much in a state of mind, I've earned this, how much am I going to be left with at the end? And when you pay company tax, then it's almost a completely opposite mindset. You have to start with the question, how much do I need per month for my own personal expenditure? And so how much do I have to draw out as a salary? That's going to be your starting point, which is a completely opposite end of the scale to if you are in an income tax declaring situation. So as I said, you still have this 23,400 left over. And once you've watched this video up here, then you will realize that when you pay company tax, you just have a whole lot of different ways of chopping up that cake. One thing to be aware of, if you ever do decide that you want to go back from company tax to income tax, then you have 5 years to make that decision. If you go past 5 years of declaring company tax, then you're stuck with the company tax forever. But that may not be any bad thing. Let me know what kind of videos you prefer. Do you like the figures? Do you like interviews? Would you maybe like a mix of both? And I'll see you again soon.